This house believes that the government should pay housewives and house husbands for their work. In proposition, we have Team Swaziland. Their first speaker is Hubantu Chlopke, the second speaker Fanele Mashwama, and their third speaker Oliver Mills. The reply will be given by Fanele Mashwama. In opposition, we have Team Singapore. Their first speaker is Tan Tek Wai. Their second speaker is Rabin Kok, and the third speaker is Darian Hotan. The reply will be given by Tan Tek Wai. The judges for this debate are Mevesh Mumtaz Ahmed from Pakistan, Branislav Fečko from Slovakia, Sebastian Vera from Argentina, Scott Ralston from Scotland, Bryn Guthrie from South Africa, Duncan McLachlan from New Zealand, and Richard Hillen from Bermuda. My name is Irena and I will be the chairperson of this debate. We also have a timekeeper here who will be keeping the time, obviously. Before we begin, I'd just like to ask you to switch off your mobile phones and make sure there are no distractions to the debate. And in case you need to leave the room, please do so at the end of the speeches, not during the debate. Now, without any further ado, I'd like to welcome the first speaker of the proposition, Wabatu Hophe, to open the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the one debate Team Swaziland has lost in this entire tournament, it was against Singapore in the first round, and the motion had to do with medical ethics and who had the right to choose what the medical decision would be made between parents and medical professionals. The line that Team Singapore ran in the debate was, "Home is where the heart is." Today in the semi-final, ladies and gentlemen, Team Swaziland brings you the line, "Home is where the heart is." And this is where we begin to set up the context of today's debate. And we see that especially in the developed world, certain families can't support themselves on one source of income. And as a result, both parents find themselves having to work to support their family. And this often means that strong parental guidance is lost due to the parents' absence because they're actually at work. And we think that parental guidance is vitally important because we think that social problems like the London riots, demonstrated that there was a loss of basic family values in developed nations, like the respect for others and the respect for property. No, thank you. So we think that, and those also a loss of discipline that was born from parental guidance. And even in developing nations, the woman's role is downplayed. Because they're economically dependent on their husband's income. And we think that paying them will empower them. And I'm sure the question that Team Singapore has right now is, can governments actually pay for this? Well, Team Swaziland says to this, can governments afford not to pay for this, ladies and gentlemen? So, how are we going to demonstrate this today in our debate in terms of the substantive matter brought to you by side proposition? I, as the first speaker, I'm going to discuss two main things. I'm going to discuss how housework is actually work, and I'm going to discuss how this policy incentivizes home building. My second speaker, Fanele, and my dear captain, will then discuss how this actually leads to the emancipation of women in the developing world. So, quickly, how do we actually see this working in practice? What we think is that we'll pay parents when there's actually like one working spouse, assuming that there's two parents who are taking care of the family. So we pay one who stays at home, and then the other parents will obviously go and work. But we think that what we actually pay them is as much as a teacher. Because we think that parents are just as important to children as teachers are, and we place the same value on parents as we do on teachers. And then furthermore, we would say that the parents have to have children as recognized by the states, because obviously it varies from country to country, whether it's 18 or 21. So that'll depend on the exact context of that debate. But what we would have, this is then be reinforced by evaluations that are carried out by social workers. We know that this is particularly difficult because we see currently on the status quo that social workers already go out and evaluate families, evaluate orphanages to determine the standard of care. So to make sure that parents are actually using the money, taking care of their families as we pay them as a government. Otherwise, we sort of take the money back because they're not doing what we asked them to. So let's move on to this first substantive argument concerning housework. Now, we think this is generally a very obvious argument. However, we don't want Team Singapore to downplay how hard this work actually is. We think that parents and housewives and house husbands actually work very hard. And what do? We think that they spend a lot of their time, cooking and cleaning and teaching their children certain values and trying to instill certain things. But in the same way we pay maids to clean, we pay chefs to cook, no thank you, and we pay teachers to teach, we think we should certainly be paying the people who do all of those things at the same time, ladies and gentlemen. And we think that this is vitally important in today's debate. So let's just move on to the second substantive argument concerning how this actually incentivizes home building. Under the status quo, we see that parents are forced into formal employment because they can't afford to support their family on one income. And these parents aren't, and as a result, the parents sort of aren't there. We think this is a problem because without parental guidance and discipline, we think that we don't have clean and safe environments for the children to actually interact in. But more importantly, we think that children don't feel cared for and are part of the family. I'll take you in a second. And we think this carries a massive social cost. Why not?
Your side destroys the relationships between parents and children because children start seeing their parents as taking care of them only for the cash.
We don't actually agree with this at all. We think that you're completely misunderstanding how children are going to see their parents and in what light. If your parent is actually there and they're taking care of you as opposed to not being there at all, we'd rather have that instance than the instance that you suggest where parents continue to stay at their jobs and not actually help. So as I was discussing, the massive social cost that could be brought about by that's brought about under the status quo. When you look at like violent gangs like the Bloods and the Crips in Los Angeles, when you consider the surveys that have been done by various organizations asking why teenage boys join those gangs, the teenage boys tend to reply in the following train of thought. That because they've never been part of the family, they spend their time looking to be part of some kind of family. And because gangs like the Bloods and the Crips operate on a certain sense of family, they find themselves in that situation. We don't think that we should have our young children going and joining, gangs because we think that carries a massive social cost. And we would rather avoid this by government giving up some of its money to actually ensure that parents are in the position to discipline their child, make the child feel cared for, and actually avoid them going off and joining things like gangs along the lines of the Bloods and the Crips, etc. So, what do we actually see happening if we implement this policy? We actually think that we're going to incentivize home building. And why do we think this is a good thing? Because we think that parents are going to be around, able to keep an eye on their children. We think that this largely will lead to the creation of safe, clean, hygienic environments, which parents are probably best suited to creating because they understand the home environment. And furthermore, we think that parents are going to do simple, basic things like watching what food their children eat. We already see that things like obesity are a massive problem in the United States, and we would actually rather have parents be around and ensure that their children try to follow some kind of healthy, clear, and clean diet. Furthermore, we think that parents will be in a position to actually ensure and check what television their children watch. So we don't want 12-year-old children watching movies, rated for 18 that ask for parental guidance, and if you find a situation that the parents aren't around there, the kids are not going to have a situation where they even follow watch with parental guidance thanks to the beginning of the TV show. And then furthermore, we think that the effect on the child directly, that the parents actually going to find themselves in a position where they're spending more time with their child. And we think that spending time with your children is very important if you're a parent. Because we think that the child is going to feel more valued. And we think that in that situation, the parent is also then able to take an interest in their child. And we think that this ultimately means that the parent is better placed to instill the values that society really and truly needs, like the respect for others, and the respect for private property, and so on and so forth. Because when we look at things like the London riots, where lots of teenagers essentially went out and destroyed certain large parts of London, it was born from the fact that they to a large extent, they didn't have those basic rights, those basic values instilled within them at a young age. But I think this is very important for parents. This is very important to have to ensure that we have a functional society. We think that government ultimately needs to invest in having a strong, balanced, and stable society, where we don't have situations like the London riots, where we don't have gangs like the Bloods and the Crips. And ultimately, because, and in summation, because housework is work, because this policy is going to incentivize home building, and largely because governments can't afford not to do this, and also because home is where the heart is, we beg you to vote.
Speaking time was 8 minutes 2 seconds.
I'd like to thank the first speaker for his speech, and now please welcome Tan Teck Wei to open the case for opposition.
Home is where the heart and not the wallet is. And that's why Team Singapore is proud to stand by the principle that love doesn't come in dollars and cents. For 3 reasons. First, because this policy destroys the parent-child relationship. Second, it hurts children in society. And my next speaker shows why this imbalances relations within families. What is our stance? We say no to paying house husbands and housewives. We say yes to what is happening around the world, where their spouses who do work either pay them or give them cash to meet their basic needs. And finally, in the cases where children need our assistance, we stand for a range of measures in the status quo to benefit them, like free early childhood education for them to pick up basic morals, or state-subsidized after-school childcare for those who are needy. The difference on our side of the house is that this policy is targeted at the families who need our aid the most, rather than the blanket policy of paying all families. Before I move on to my substantive material, 2 questions are rebuttal. First, will it work? Second, will it be beneficial? First question, will it work? And the heart of Team Proposition's policy lies in a key clause on the idea of social workers making evaluation as to good parents and bad parents. How exactly will this happen? They haven't given us any kind of a criteria for a social worker to work on. In the status quo, it's generally things like cases of clear-cut abuse that they look out for. But how do you exactly quantify what good parenting is? No. If you can't do so, then we believe this mechanism fails.
Point, sir.
Second reason why this fails is because families have a perverse incentive to cover up. When they know a social worker is coming, they'll act in a very nice manner in order to obtain this money. This means that Team Swaziland's policy actually ends up paying far more bad parents than they actually think will happen. But even if we accepted all of these policy mechanisms were perfectly alright, why is this still a bad thing? For 2 reasons. The first benefit they gave us was parents deserve the money, therefore we should pay them. We disagree on our side. We say parents are a far nobler act than either a chef or a teacher because they do the things they do for altruistic reasons. Just because their action is exactly the same doesn't mean they should be paid in the same way. For instance, we pay people to pick up the trash on the streets. But if I as an individual pick up the trash along the neighborhood for good reasons, this doesn't mean the state has to pay me for every altruistic action I do. So, more importantly, this discourages parents from becoming house husbands or housewives. If you give me a moment. Because once they start seeing such behavior as based solely on financial reasons, it deters them from that original altruistic intent that was so powerful in deciding to become a good parent in the first place.
We admit that most parents are altruistic, but altruism doesn't pay the bills.
Look, again, in the vast majority of families around the world, you don't have people struggling to meet their needs. But where they do, the answer is not a policy to pay all families. It's the answer of targeting our assistance to the families who need it the most in a situation of welfare. So this is a solution that quite clearly misses the heart of the problem. Second point of rebuttal, second benefit they gave us. Parents will stay at home more, and this is good in a number of ways. We agree that parents staying at home more is good for a couple of reasons. But we first of all don't think this will happen. Why? Who are the parents who choose not to stay at home? On one hand, there are those who earn so much in their careers they would rather give up their family. If you're only going to pay them the salary of a teacher, does this make a difference? No. On the other hand, you have parents who are struggling to feed their families. In that case, in this situation, even if you paid them, chances are wouldn't be enough to take care of such a struggling family. And this is why the loopholes for abuse that we talked about are so important. It gives families an incentive to pretend to be a housewife or house husband when it matters, because they're so desperate, they're still going to go out there and try and find a job if you truly believe they are in such dire straits of poverty. No thank you. Finally, on the argument of going to gangs and doing terrible things, your side or Team Swaziland makes things worse. Because I'll show you right now why when parents are alienated from their children, it turns them towards such alternatives instead. So the benefits of Team Swaziland's case don't necessarily accrue only in their case, because the vast majority of parents who acknowledge such benefits will do these things too. First argument, this destroys the parent-child relationship. Premise, if you pay the parent, you commodify their love. Why? Because you pay them for behavior that comes from the goodness of their heart. Now, we're not very satisfied on our side. We think this